Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SB Reviews, where today we're going to be checking out a track from an act named Sweaty Machines, titled Blue Jeans and Bloody Tears. And if we switch over to here, this is going to be an interesting review today, because I need to sort of give a little bit of context for it. A Eurovision song created by artificial intelligence, Blue Jeans and Bloody Tears. Now, this is a song that was made around 6 years ago, just before anyone brings out their pitchforks. As Europe, together with Australia and Israel, are glued to their TV sets watching the 64th Eurovision Song Competition, we asked ourselves, what makes a Eurovision song memorable? Does a Eurovision hit have special DNA? The project team fed hundreds of Eurovision songs, melodies and lyrics into a neural network. Then algorithms produced thousands of new tunes and lines of verse, from which a few musical units were carefully selected and welded into a song. So this is very different, I suppose, to what we have nowadays with a lot of the modern AI programs and softwares and stuff, where they just make everything and then give it to you as post. This was far more deliberate on the part of the team involved and everything like that. It was before a lot of it was more automated and sort of like polished. And so you'll probably hear a different kind of song than what you hear with a lot of AI music nowadays, which I think is actually inherently a good thing. I've already listened to this track, full disclosure, and I quite like it. I just wanted to share it for context, especially with how music is at the moment. And we're going to listen through it from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. So if you're still watching, let's go. We fed hundreds of Eurovision lyrics and melodies to a deep learning algorithm and generated the first Eurovision song made by artificial intelligence. Featuring Izhar Cohen, 1978 Eurovision winner. Isn't there just so much interesting stuff going on in there? It's a really interesting experiment how they amalgamate all those different textures together, and there's like a patent different feel to certain parts.
Baby, summer's gone, it's gone for the both of us, and tears will always have wet eyes that cry, but I'll survive on the mission. I will let you go forever. Blue jeans and bloody tears,
And a different vocal texture here. So I'm not sure if the lyrics are meant to make sense, but either way they're intriguing.
Baby, bye, bye, bye. Oh, bye, bye, bye. Baby, let me go so close to the holy ground. The tears
And a shorter verse to switch things up.
eyes that cry, but I'll survive on the mission. I will let you go forever. Blue jeans and bloody tears. Blue jeans and bloody tears. There's no life without your life in misery. Blue jeans and bloody tears. Don't break my heart, it's powerless. This magic is inspired of me, don't keep me hanging on. Don't break my heart, it's powerless. This magic is inspired of me, don't keep me hanging on. I will let you go forever. Blue jeans and bloody tears.
Great vibrato there, man.
Jeans and bloody tears. Blue jeans and bloody tears. There's no life without your life in misery. Blue jeans and bloody tears. Blue jeans and bloody tears.
And the Christmas bells.
Jeans and bloody tears. There's no life without your life in misery. Blue jeans and bloody tears. Blue jeans and bloody tears. Blue jeans and bloody tears. There's no life without your life in misery.
That was fantastic. Fantastic stuff. Blue Jeans and Bloody Tears featuring Izhar Cohen, if I'm not mistaken there. It's just, I think you'll have found this to potentially be an interesting experience listening through this in comparison to a lot of the AI music you might have been more familiar with from the last couple of years. But we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Sweaty Machines titled Blue Jeans and Bloody Tears, a Eurovision song created by artificial intelligence. Now, I'm not sure what this track is about. I'm lost when I'm within you. There is no hesitation in your eyes. And we go through the lyrics and there's just, it's just kind of maybe wondering if we're in a relationship with someone and we're realizing that yeah, actually, no, I don't actually think the song makes sense, if I'm honest. Maybe it's talking about how love is cursed and we're meant to be miserable, and miserable as being part of having a fulfilled existence. Is that it? Is that kind of the vibe it's going for? They talk about their heart being powerless and, you know, well, I'll cry, but I survive. I love how it's just really silly, despite the really intense subject matter, you know. The synth kind of Vocaloid vocals there, the deliberate AI singing or sort of like synthesizing those vocals is just so charming and works well, I think, with the context and sort of situation we've set up with it. I think one of the problems with like modern AI music, and I say this with the understanding that the song came out 6 years ago, is that it's trying too hard to be a human being. It's trying too hard to convince us that it's something that it's not. Whereas here, it's very much like being transparent and on board with it, and Izhar Cohen is kind of like feeding off of that, you know. And I love that we are having like a human sing along to it and just kind of vibe with it, especially someone who has been previously in the Eurovision contest. You know, it's just something beautiful about that. To have someone who grew up with like a couple of decades after they featured in that of music done, in fact, you know, 4 decades, if we're honest, from 1978 to 2018, around the time this was done. And they're just getting involved with the new sort of technology and kind of just having fun and just kind of grooving along to it. I think there's a beautiful thing. And Izhar can sing incredibly well. Fantastic head and chest voice. Preserved their voice really well, considering I would assume they'd be getting on a bit at this point. And it's just so wonderful how they kind of feed off each other. The kind of the synth computer vocals and Izhar, they niche well together. And there's also some interesting sort of like alternate vocal takes with the Blue Jeans and Bloody Tears part in the chorus there, where it's like group vocals. I think maybe computer oriented, because you can hear a textural difference between that when Izhar sings the "There's no life without your life" and misery part there. But just the way that they rise with him in those key changes as well is fantastic. In fact, honestly, the music is my favorite part about this. This is my favorite AI song, in case you were not aware. I love it to pieces. I think that if you go past just a really fantastic vocal performance with AI sort of like lines that are not rhythmically, things don't hit where you'd expect them to rhythmically. They're kind of a little bit stilted, a little bit kind of uncomfortable, and you can tell that it's still kind of working out where it needs to go, or being a little bit kind of like quirky. And I'm glad that they kept it in here and didn't try to sanitize those takes. They literally took the raw output from it and just tried to let it be itself. And that's part of why I also liked a lot of the music I reviewed earlier on, as opposed to the stuff nowadays where a lot of music that I get now is far more safe. There were some risks taken with this one. I think it's really cool. But like at 3 minutes 38, it's just so well fleshed out with those various verse and bridge and chorus sections, you know. There's also like an interlude section with the iteration of "Don't Keep Me Hanging On" part there. And it's just, you know, seamless transitions between them. When we have the Bloody Tears held note with the vibrato, like kind of retardando before that kind of triple chorus there, or the double chorus, we go up a key signature and then we do it again. So it's just really well fleshed out in terms of its structure there. Lots of variety to keep us engaged. But I think the 80s aesthetic, you know, within these synth sequences that you have immediately at the start after the kind of computer turns on, is something to sort of be aware of. It's a track where it's immediately trying to go to its dance roots, and it does sort of like capture a lot of the magic of, again, music in the 80s, but also in like the 2010s, where we started to go back for those kind of like synth layers, especially in the early 2010s with the EDM movement. We were very much sort of refamiliarizing ourselves with that, and the AI caught on to that. It's a fantastic chord note, groove oriented piece in terms of the percussion there, with a wide variety of different sort of cymbal patterns there, as well as some really cool sort of like orchestral drum sort of fills between parts, with some dum parts with the toms as well. But like they keep it fundamental with those chord note grooves in the verse sections as well. There's fills and then there's main beats, and that's a lot more than you have across the board in terms of modern pop music a lot of the time. There is not a lot of adjustment with the percussion. Oftentimes the most you get is either sort of sub layers of different alternative types of percussion, or you just don't have anything at all. And there's like claps in the chorus parts and little sort of shakers as well. They're doing 16th note patterns alongside it, with the bass sequencer doing the eighths there. So rhythmically it's really well fleshed out, just interesting in that regard there. It definitely is a dance track. It's meant to be vibed along with despite the intensity of the subject matter. And I think that when you have that sort of bass sequencer at the start, boom, 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 it makes sense for the robot vocals to be sort of vocoded in more of a sort of a synthy tone there. They just texturally match each other, and it has a similar kind of electro kind of vibe to it. And when Izhar comes in to do their vocals, there is a lot more cleaner. He doesn't have any processing on his voice necessarily, or at least not nearly as much. He doesn't need tuning because he can sing well, but it's just a really great sort of like shift in the tone there and the perceived feel of it because of a lack of that. Like he's the analog element kind of anchoring things and making it a bit more real. And there's this dreamy sort of like synth pads at some points there, which create this sort of mesmerizing affectation to it. They're held, so they contrast with the punch of some of the percussive elements. And then you also have these risers there, which go into the bridge, and it's sparkly with the 16th note sequences on the side there that kind of glitter. It's just beautiful, man. And like you have the robot kind of go with Izhar with some of those upper octave parts there, and they harmonize, and it's just beautiful, man. It's such a gorgeous sound to it. Like I love it to pieces. It's such a wonderful effort. And you have these kind of flutters of synth pads as well there that kind of grace it. And it's just the way that I know I'm describing it in sequence, but it's just to show the attention to detail, that the attempt to develop, and the expertise on display to know where to put what stuff with which. It's very difficult for most human beings to write music that is this compelling. And that's not me making a comment on modern AI music, like the kind of Suno stuff and everything like that, which is far more minimalist than this. But it's just simply, there's stuff that's going on here that is admirable, even if you have an issue with artificial intelligence. And then you have that different vocal style for the chorus section there, which is just a great sort of textural shift there and keeps things intriguing for listeners there. And then you have those kind of synth tones, those kind of stutters or sort of stabs there, and then you have the tom fills that kind of roll over, and it's just lush with flavor, man. And it's not just that we have these parts in each sequence there. So that's the kind of the verses, the bridges, the choruses fleshed out, etc. But then we don't allow ourselves to have a similar instrumental makeup. We don't sleep on it. With that second verse, for example, we do not have the drums for a part. We come back into it on the halfway bit, but we don't just assume that it's enough to repeat it. And in that bridge section, we add more sort of like synth flutters and stuff to keep it more exciting there, you know. And there's also some keys doing some staccato da-dun, da-dun, and some of those rising parts there. It's a lot of individual instruments doing some really cool things that without context maybe aren't as effective, but together just elevate it. I think that when you get to the interlude section, what's great is that you have this chord note groove instantiated throughout the majority of the piece, but then you slow down, you go half time there, and it kind of makes you sort of sit down and really listen to what they're trying to tell you there. And to have some of the ambient syncopated parts of the kit as well just shows that there's flexibility in regards to how they sort of roll through that percussion there. And there's also dynamic range. Like there's a crescendo, a slow crescendo going into the last chorus part during that interlude section. There's dynamic range to this. Things aren't the same loudness there. They're not squeezed and crushed there. It sounds professionally mixed and mastered. And I think that that's actually a fair comment, because a lot of the reason why maybe some of the early AI music worked a lot better than arguably it does nowadays is that they weren't trying to do everything within the same module. They actually had to generate individual things that they put together, and so they then had to be mindful of their individual loudnesses and the ways that they work within a mix. And so then they'd end up having to sort of like put it out like that anyways. It was more about it being a source of ingredients rather than being a source of a song. But I just think when you have that organ come in with the last chorus section, it's just an almost kind of kind of out of body experience there. It's just so glorious, and I adore it to pieces. It just fills me with joy hearing it. And the lyrics don't even matter at this point, you know. If it's just so cool that they knew to go up a key there. It's such a common thing in pop music, and it's just done so well here. And I think it's because we expect less of AI music that we don't expect it to happen here. And I think for people in 2019 especially, like nowadays, I think if people listen to this, will be blown away by it. But what I think works incredibly well here is that they add those Christmas bells into the last sort of key change of the song, really to sort of like have a sense of romanticism, and this is the time of the year, this is the joy, this is a wonderful thing to celebrate. And I love it, man. I love Christmas. And real talk, this will be, because I didn't really get a Christmas, just very quickly, I didn't really get a Christmas last year because we were so stressed out about needing to buy a house, and it ruined Christmas. So this year, when we get a house and we're looking to maybe have one sorted, we're going to be able to have our first Christmas, our proper Christmas in a couple of years. And I love Christmas, and this just fills me with a joy, man. It makes me genuinely happy. When you take away those chord note accents on the drums there, and that final like outro part there, you just have the blue jeans and bloody tears being repeated, and you have the bells continuing. A lot of just the really exciting things continue there, but it's just so peaceful and so joyous and pleasant. It's a deliberate kind of like affectation that makes me sort of understand that I think a lot of what Eurovision is about is trying to bring joy and show their love and passion for music and share it with the world, and they do so wonderfully here. And then they have the bell ring out, and the kind of fluctuation of the synths and things kind of resonate and roll out in a way where if I didn't know this is AI made, I would not know this is AI made. I think before we move on to the final point, this is a very long review, isn't it? I've just realized just how long this is. But the final thing I want to say about this track is that you wouldn't know it was an AI song listening to it. I think part of it is clearly because you can hear like I can see here that it's a duet of disillusioned love between Izhar Cohen and a computer, written and composed by a computer. The song was produced by Avshalom Ariel, one of the creators of Toy. So honestly, like, I'm not surprised that these guys were able to do as well as they did with this. This is it. It's a produced AI song. It's a produced one. I just feel that separates it. You need to have that human element, even if you're getting a lot of your inspiration from these sort of produced sources. I just think that the reason this is different than a lot of modern AI music is that it's just got more human involvement with it, and the individual stages between the lines and stuff like that. It sounds wonderful. Thematically, I just think it's meant to be a song that illustrates the best components of Eurovision, with the minor orients some parts, with the major leaning in the chorus there. It's very much kind of a push-pull kind of sentimentality there, but it's done in a way where it's joyous, and it really does kind of almost get to a point where, with the way the key changes occur, they're accepting that misery is a part of life, but that we're gonna sort of like try and smile through those bloody tears. Even if you can't have that person in your life, even if they're struggling, it's okay because we're together, and that's what matters, you know? Even if we're powerless, we'll be powerless together. It's a wild thing, man. It's a wild song, really, when you think about it. I won't go in too deep, but just, it's more about, I think this track is less about trying to make a statement with the music and more showing about the best elements of the Eurovision contest over the last sort of like 40 years or the 64th years from when that point was occurred. And I think it did a wonderful job of showing the overall joy of the piece, despite the kind of the emotional nuance, and just the instrumental choices are fantastic. The studio production is wonderful. You can hear the vocals clearly, as well as the various sort of keys and pianos and basses and drums and all those kind of different synths and claps and all those takes and the bells and all those other sort of layers. It's just wonderfully produced. There's no weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum. It's vivacious and full of life. It's nice and bright and charming, and there's a great textural sort of like balance between the computer vocals and Izhar's vocals. You can hear them distinctly in the mix when they're together or separate, call and responding. And yeah, it was nice and low without pumping. It's the bus compression limiting the sound. Honestly, just a wonderful song. I honestly, as a music reviewer, I know that we're in a day and age now where people are going to send through music that's AI generated. I'll say this here and now, if you're making AI music, I need it to be as good as this. I need it to be as good as this in order for me to consider it a great track, because this is the only AI song that I've heard that I think is great. I haven't heard a song made by AI that has been anything better than like good or acceptable. And I think that you need to do the mixing and mastering of these AI tracks with their individual inputs in order to really get the most out of them. And I just don't know if that's possible with a lot of AI stuff, but you know, that like the websites that do it and stuff like that. But that's something that I suppose we'll learn about as we go. In the meantime, thank you for watching my review of this track from an act named Sweaty Machines, titled Blue Jeans and Bloody Tears, a Eurovision song created by artificial intelligence, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SB Reviews. Spiderhands out.